before we get into the Q&A portion of this, I do think that Nick and Jamal should speak to just a little bit about their perspective, kind of their thoughts and feelings getting into this, and it might help spur some discussion. So if Nick, do you want to kick it off first, and then we'll go over to Jamal?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, the main part of this is going to be driven by the participants, the questions that are being asked. As Nicole will explain and say many times, this isn't about being moderated. It's type your questions to anyone or put it in the open chat. Let's have a talk about it, because that's the union that Jamal and I believe in. I don't claim to know every single thing. I don't have every single answer. And that's definitely not why I'm running for president or running with the team with Jamal. I think that this is an imperative time to talk about things like leadership and our overall direction of our union, the needs, the wants, and desires of our members, and how we'll achieve it. Because ultimately, we can have all the discussion, but if you don't take the membership along with you, you don't have education. That's a part of it. And by the way, I'm sorry if you're hearing announcements. I'm sitting in Lubbock Airport in the terminal in Texas, so I'm tethered to my phone. So who knows what issues will come up, but as I was saying, this is the crucial time. I know there is a lot of rhetoric that is going on with the campaigns, a lot from Rich and Mick trying to peg Jamal and I as these guys never want to negotiate a contract again. And it's 100% false. And I'm sure that will come out through your questions. So I'm not going to really try to, set and steal that shine right now from all of you, because we do absolutely want to move this union forward in contract, pay. It's really ultimately about setting a strategy and being willing to educate and talk to the members about what that strategy looks like, why we feel that's an approach, but also get the feedback and the ideas from the members along the way. But the other thing I do want to address besides contract and pay, and again, we'll answer any questions about that, or we need to dive into it. If there's not as many questions as we expect about it, we will hit those as well. But ultimately, that this comes down to part of what I don't think comes up through natural conversations. Why is Jamal and I running as a team? Why did we decide to take this, on together? Anybody can go out and run for any position, but we made a definitive statement that we have, while our visions are not always in unison or 1,000% in sync, what we know is we can always trust in one another to have the tough conversations and see the direction that we want to go together. And that comes from being able to display leadership. And leadership isn't just something that you're inherently born with, or that one person can do and everybody else just says, oh, wow, look, at the natural leadership realism. It's a team sport. It takes two people willing to drive and push each other and hold each other accountable to the roles and the positions that we're seeking, that we're going to be out with the membership, that we're going to be engaged with, the conversations, groups, but not be the two guys that say it's our way or the highway either, because it's not the union we teach. We teach rep training. It's not the union we believe in. And ultimately, this is about how do we improve from where we currently are, because we do not like the direction that we're going now, and that has to change. And that's the beauty of a union. You get the choice of that direction that we're going to be. I obviously have full faith in Daniels-Haltom as executive vice president in helping to set that path forward. And if we don't elect them, I think the union will be at an extreme loss to not only his ability to articulate and engage and negotiate our positions, but also show the power of collecting thinking to the members. So I'll stop there and see if my brother wants to add anything.
Yeah, certainly. One of the tenets that's important for me is, or a couple, are transparency and education. And that's educating members and also being educated on the subject matter that you're tackling. These are big, important positions that affect all of us and our families. Most air traffic controllers are the breadwinners for their families, and it's extremely important that we educate ourselves and that those who are in elected positions are educated so that they can move the ball forward. I'm seeing an extreme gap in that, a desire to gloss over things and not be transparent with the membership, to feed punchlines or snippets to the members and hope that we can rally support that way, but not having a whole lot of substance behind it. And a lot of that substance comes from being educated to know how we moved the ball previously in pay, so we can know how to move it in the future. Not always do you have to do what's been done in the future, but to know what has been done in the future sets the table of maybe something you want to do the exact opposite. But educating the members, being truthful and forthcoming and transparent on all the things that we do. What are our Article 114 reps doing? So that we have a unison and we understand the purpose of our union in totality, and so that you have trust in our union. The foundation of any organization is trust, and it seems that the trust has slipped, and that's something that bothers me. I've been in this union since 2005 in the contractor phase at that time, but it's always meant a lot to me that I could have faith in our union. Seeing people try to skirt issues, try to manipulate our membership is something that really bothers me. That's not who I am, and that's our style is to be very transparent. It doesn't mean everybody's going to end up liking us, but everyone will know they're getting the truth from us, and I believe you all deserve that. You're given a portion of your salary to this union to represent you, and you deserve people that are honest and forthright. You deserve people that are educated and aren't trying to manipulate you. So we'll stop with that. I see my good friend Jack Ander. I think that's Jack Ander. I'm almost positive it's Jack Anders joining the call, and that's a warm to see somebody that you know, because I don't know a lot of people in the New England region. But I'll tell you what, everybody up there is my family, my brother and sister. And Jack could tell you, we could not get along even, and I'll fight for you because I believe in the principles that this union stands on. Our contract matters. The MOUs that we sign matter. We have to enforce them, and we have to be willing to not be bound by what's only been done, but have creativity to move the ball forward. So thank you guys for joining. It is a small group, but I hope you ask us questions, and I hope you bring things back to your membership. You could be good or bad. Maybe you say go back and say just not it for me. But hopefully it's that those guys were transparent, they listened, and they answered our questions, and they took feedback from us as well, because that's part of this also.
All right, thank you both for your perspectives there. Start off with a few housekeeping items before we do questions. First, everybody, you are on mute. So if you want to either raise your hand to ask a question, you can use the raise the hand feature down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you want to type it in the chat, we will, definitely get to it. Nothing is being moderated here. Like Nick said, there are no discussions that are off the table. We know that you guys see social media, we hear the break room chatter. Whatever questions you have, we don't want you walking away from, this venue tonight still with questions. So ask anything, that you guys want. If you want to turn on your camera when you ask your question, that would be great. We love to see who we're talking to here, but if not, that's okay as well. Just know that when I do unmute you, if you mute yourself again while Nick or Jamal answer your questions, it's not going to let you unmute again. So if you do have a follow-up or something like that, just put your hand back up or type something in the chat, and we'll go from there. So the last thing I'll say before we get started on that is if you have ideas or concerns or anything like that that you want to share, this isn't, just a forum for Nick and Jamal to answer your questions. It's also here to discuss ideas. So we just want to encourage you guys to do that as well. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to wait for somebody to raise their hand and get us started, or type something in the chat.
Yeah, Nick's internet is struggling as he's in an airport in Texas, probably on 4G potentially. But nice beard.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, bro. Nice beard by Ryan Workman. At least it is in the picture. And as I say it, I think he disappeared. Tell him he had a beard if you guys know him. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. It could be personal. It could be about a contract issue. It could be about what our stance is, pay, CBA negotiations, anything. Feel free to ask.
And if you need us to
we don't bite.
Just, I was about to say, if you need us to just rattle off things, the problem is I can talk all day, but I try not to. That's something I'm working on.
Why don't we talk a little bit about pay real quick, and then maybe that'll open up the discussion. So end this thing, and this shouldn't be political. It's gotten political. We're one union that should be driving in the same direction, particularly on the biggest issues that we have. But um, you know, pay is something that is a hallmark. Compensation in total, pay and benefits is really the baseline for being a union representative. Any person that wants to represent a union and doesn't want to increase and improve on those things shouldn't raise their hand to do that. So let there be no question that Nick and I and all of, when you see team NDJH, it's not just us two, it's a lot of people. All of us have an extreme interest in seeing our compensation improved. But we want to be very clear that it doesn't have to wait for collective bargaining negotiations to do those things. We can improve our pay right now today. If Nick and I were in office right now, we'd be providing MOUs to the agency to say, we believe there's places that our pay can be increased right now because the world's economy, the United States economy has changed significantly since our last CBA that was extended in 2021. And we have a desire to address those things so we can serve our membership better. You know, we want to look at premiums for Saturday premiums. And just saying these things, by the way, doesn't mean it's a guarantee to get them, but it's a willingness to negotiate and not being bound by the only thing you can do is CBA. But we want to look at Saturday premiums. We want to look at some longevity differentials. We want to look at, some longevity premiums. We want to look at affordability differentials for other places around the country. Maybe a entire controller incentive pay. And those things have been done in the history of our union. We've had a controller incentive pay as we transition from the GS scale to the Green Book and offer into the AT scale. We have a plethora of ideas. One of those is the AG pay scale, right? We think that the AG pay scale is antiquated. It doesn't serve our members. Our members can barely stay afloat while they're on the AG pay scale. We'd like to see them start at their first developmental phase to give them an opportunity to breathe, particularly in these high cost of livings that we're forced to live in order to serve the NAS. So we have a lot of ideas that we would like to hit the ground running with the agency. And when you go out and visit, we're now at well over 150 facilities. You get ideas from the membership, and we want to see some of those implemented. Nick, I'll turn it over to you to expound or cover any of those things that maybe I missed.
You know, I'll just give a direct example of what you were just saying there. One of the things that we've heard often from the membership, and you know, you're looking for any ways of, okay, how can I pitch that? You know, you're constantly in the back of your mind, especially if you're LR oriented, of what am I setting up to be able to use against the agency or to negotiate that later on? What's going to be a good point? And it was in Phoenix Tower this past weekend with Phoenix Tower and Tracon. We were sitting in the conference room having a discussion. So, man, one of these ideas that's out there are people moving from facilities, right? When they have the ability to move, which is a whole topic on its own, in something that we absolutely need to focus on employee movement. I do not think Mick and Rich have really, while the NCEP team has done an amazing job with where they're at, we have to start taking a different approach to that. And I think right now they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, but this is right now about pay. Is there's this idea of when I get to move or when I am selected from a level 6 facility to, let's say, a level 11 facility, that I've gained. Maybe I've been stuck in my facility for 10 years, and the raises that have gained over that time are kind of just washed away. And you know, I really tried to look at that from some different angles. Jamal and I were talking. So, well, what's some ideas around that? And man, one of the guys ripped out an idea because they've talked about it 50 different times in different ways. They've already explored those answers. And when you don't have leaders that are engaged and out there having those types of discussions or taking that feedback and presenting it to the National Executive Board, these ideas just live in control rooms. They don't make it to the light of day. And one of it was, well, maybe if, you know, you take the dollar amount that you got in pay raises from that level 6, because they're obviously much smaller if you're doing a 1.6 pay raise over June's, that's not nearly what a level 11 or 12 gets at, or 1.6. Maybe you take those raises and tack them on top of my level 11 base once I CPC, and then my pay can move from there. That's while again, we can't wave the magic wand and just say it. That was a great way to articulate it. That's not percentage based. That's not overly complex, but yet shows the value of what we brought with us from the experience from the other facilities. So it's things like that that we want to continue engaging with our members about pay. And if you have ideas as well, you know, we're not going to sit here and say, we'll get you all of them, but we want to hear all of them. So that way we can position ourselves and our union and the team that will negotiate the best that we can with the charge to move forward.
All right, and we have had a few people join since we started. So for those of you that weren't here when we went over the housekeeping items, if you do have questions, you can type them directly into the chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature down at the bottom. Nothing is off the table. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Nick and Jamal just went over some ideas with pay. So Mr. Andrew, Jack, I believe is what your name was. I hope that answered your question from the chat there. And if not, just raise your hand or let us know and we'll go
Well,
more.
Nicole, I saw his question, and to be specific, I do want to address it, because his question, if you don't mind, read his question so we can address it.
Sure. He said, I wanted to thank you two for stepping up. Any insight on how we can get a meaningful raise from the FAA and work around pay caps?
Yeah, so the federal pay cap exists. It's in Title 49. So any thought that you can get it through through negotiations to get above the federal pay cap, you can't. You would have to change the law. We should sign up. We should lead the movement. We should always be trying to address the federal pay cap and having it either raised or removed. No doubt about that. But as you said something or asked something there that is important to talk about. Ways we can, our differentials, our premiums, while they don't go toward our retirement necessarily in our high three, they do allow us to exceed the federal pay cap. We have plenty of people that exceed the federal pay cap. So having things like Saturday premiums, controller incentive pays, those things would allow us to increase our take home, which would help us to offset what inflation has done to us, what natural rising cost is going to do for the length of our career without affecting the federal pay cap. So you have to be willing to be creative and not tell yourself no. That's what our negotiating position is. Have a justifiable reason, present it, and then be willing to fight for it. Anything you say, you should be able to explain well. Anything you ask for, you should be able to tell those who you're negotiating against why and what it does. And it does just that. It takes the worry of pay off of the minds of our controllers and frees them to do the job that they've been hired to do, which is move the American people, or actually the people of the world, from place to place, including commerce. So, Jack, I hope that answers your question. It's just going to take a little bit of creativity and thinking outside of the box.
Jack, I'll just include real quick, and thanks for the shout out about stepping up. And, it takes people willing to dive in here and explore these ideas and put forward these concepts. This is a beautiful time in our union to do that. And without an election, and we just keep moving forward, these conversations don't happen at this level. They may happen on occasion or an idea sparks it, but they don't happen in the totality of looking at who we are and what we're about. So appreciate that, because one of the things that I think bothered this whole union was when a national executive board kind of self-declared who the next president and executive vice president was going to be. I think we look back on that and we learn lessons from the past. It doesn't mean they didn't have a reason or rationale for doing it at that time. Many of those RVPs now support Jamal and I. Half of them support Jamal and I now that endorsed Rich and Andrew at one time. But that's the beauty of us having an election every 3 years. So Jack, just want to say thanks to that as well.
All right, looks like we have Hanan Wiseman. I'm going to unmute you now, and you guys don't have to wait for them to be done answering questions before you ask another one. So just feel free to raise your hand or type away in the chat. You should be unmuted now.
What up, Hanan?
Hey, how are you, Nick? Hey, so a couple things. When you guys were here back in February, you talked a lot about relationships with the FA administrator and with other people, your counterparts on the other side. And I just wanted to see, so it's kind of a two-part question, but first I wanted to see if you could tell me what makes you think that you have a better opportunity to have a better relationship with Mike Whitaker than Rich Santa does.
I'll say,
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I'll start it out.
That's the first part, and then I got a follow-up to that.
By all means. I think number one, it comes down to your credibility, your experience, and then what you ultimately stand for and stand by. Jamal and I have worked on, I would say, a multitude of either work groups or negotiations together, and some of them are contentious, right? You get into the room with a manager, but ultimately, I don't hear things from Jamal and I that I've heard on this national executive board of, well, I'll just ignore them, or it sounds very elementary when kind of like an area rep dealing with an OM. I too at one time, went in and did the desk flipping, or I said, oh, I'm not speaking to this person. Mike Whitaker is appointed by 99 of 100, or was voted 99 by 100 senators to lead the Federal Aviation Administration. Those types of tactics no longer work. You cannot have a president that wants to play either games to run, hide, distract, and move from there. You get called to question on those types of things, and I think that we saw that. We saw that in a large way with the fatigue, MOU. Ultimately, we were able to then work with a work group to put that back in the box with the agency later on. But the agency needs to know, and the administrator needs to know, that we're serious partners. And we're going to stand behind what we say at the end of the day. And you haven't seen joint messaging. You haven't seen Tim and Rich stand up and say, this is something that we want to ensure is happening out in the field. This is where the union and agency are working together. And when we had more of that, I think the membership either got to have an opinion about that, and they got to work with the regional vice presidents, or we got to say, okay, I understand at least the direction that we're going or where we are, not just waiting for something to happen to us and then we react from there. Jamal, I don't know if there's anything you were about to say when I first started.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think everyone knows that Washington, D.C. is a small place. The FAA is a small place. Your reputation precedes you. And as I say, I don't like to use I a lot. Would like to talk about NACA in general, but you asked specifically about us. I have a good reputation in Washington, D.C. I have a good reputation as it relates to working with counterparts, not as a capitulator, as a collaborator, as a negotiator. I've worked on national projects since 2012. I worked on a national collective bargaining agreement. I'm currently the national training rep of the union. I work with high-level managers. They speak to other high-level managers. They know who I am. They know what I'm about. They know my level of credibility. That includes the COO, who works directly under the administrator. I've worked with the administrator's office as it relates to enhanced CTI programs. So our work precedes us, and we are relationship people. You have to cultivate a relationship. You have to run headfirst into that relationship and show that you have a desire to be a collaborative partner. Currently in my role, I've had 4 different counterparts. All of them have went to a higher role in the FAA after they left, being the director of training and technical training. And all of them have, as I said, gone on to higher positions. They speak highly of me because of the work that I do. And it's not Jamal gives us what gives us what we want. It's that Jamal is a good representative, understands the rules, is diligent about his work. So that's why I think we'd have a better relationship.
Okay, appreciate that. So the follow-up to this is I have quite a few friends in the Southwest region, Dallas area, Austin area, and one friend at Fort Worth Center. And I have been told by them that the Fort Worth Center FAC rep is saying that Nick has a deal with Mike Whitaker to open up the contract in 2026. I'm wondering if that is true, because I mean that to me, like, we hear about the mutual agreement to open, that would be kind of a big deal, right? If we already have a deal in place. So I guess the question is that true? And if it is true, what does it look like? And if it's not true, just want to hear that as well, I guess.
Yeah, listen, I wish I had a deal for you already in my back pocket, but clearly I've never even spoke to Mike Whitaker or seen and laid eyes on him or had any contact with him. So it's absolutely not true, Hanan. But like I said, if it was, I would be, not only shouting it from the rooftop, it would be inappropriate for me, the Southwest Regional Vice President, to be dealing with the administrator themselves.
Okay. All right.
No,
I
I'm glad
heard
you
that
asked,
and I
brother.
was like, well,
Please.
okay, well, maybe there's a little bit of a reason why there was a vote to extend, because I can't wrap my head around any good reason for it. So I I heard that and I was like, well, maybe there's way more to this, and thought I'd come on here and ask you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you did, brother.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
well, I would add there, though, Hanan, you just said something. No, a vote to extend. Why not have that discussion now, right? It's you just said it, so let's talk about it. We don't want to extend the CBA, no matter how it tries to get phrased or try to pigeonhole us. That was a cute tactic, or that was deployed by. And I think Mick was more the orator of that work, and put out videos insinuating that that's our intentions. Nick can explain, and I hope very concisely what happened. The truth of the matter is, we want to protect the union. We want to protect the union in the event that executive orders come into place. It's, to me, very disappointing that we aren't all jointly talking about executive orders and letting our membership know the very threat that they are to our union's existence, and having an opportunity to protect ourselves in the event they come in place is something that we should consider. The question before them at that time in San Francisco was about a finite period of time that is quite frankly passed. It was a tactic, a ploy to try to paint us as the people that want to extend the contract, when the fact of the matter is, the only people that have extended a contract that are running for office is Mick and Rich. They extended the CBA in 2021. We had nothing to do with that. Zero to do with that. And we've not run from the fact that we think it was actually a pretty good decision at the time, based on the fact that executive orders existed. The same executive orders that President Trump has said he'll dust off. It's not about who the president is. It's about those executive orders that lie out there. And it's about protecting this union and the family members that are associated with this union. So that's the why there may be a reason to extend, but we did not or do not have a desire to extend.
You guys mind if I ask another follow up to what you just said about the EOs? I
Absolutely.
don't want to filibuster here, but I had a conversation with Clint Lancaster because I made a post on one of your Instagram pages, or one of your Instagram posts. I made a comment, and Clint Lancaster reached out to me. So he and I had about an hour and a half long conversation about these EOs, and I asked him if he was aware that these EOs were soundly defeated in federal court. Ketanji Brown is now in the Supreme Court. She was the federal judge, and she found 9 of the 12 components of these EOs, all the most damaging ones, the ones that prevented permissive bargaining, the ones that went against official time, all these. I mean, if you give me a few minutes, I can pull up all the bullet points. But the point is they were soundly defeated. And after that, AFG, I think it's NTU, and a couple other federal unions all had very successful CBA negotiations with their federal counterparts. So I am a little bit mystified as to why there's a fear now that there's clear case law saying that these have been defeated, they're unconstitutional, they can't be reimposed. Why there's such a fear amongst NACA leadership of these EOs?
I'll start with a very clear portion of that. Everything that you just said has never been presented to this National Executive Board, our Labor Relations Department, or to to any of us sitting in.
But wouldn't you wonder why? Why are attorneys not telling us this?
So that's exactly it, right? The same reason that during COVID, executive orders were put in place about putting out vaccination mandates, putting out guidance for the Safer Federal Workforce Task Force, and giving them power, right? That people wanted to fight. And ultimately, what did we say as a union that was under Rich's leadership at the time? And an executive order is the law of the land at that time. And if it's somehow being defeated, which again, I have not seen any proof, of that, or it's not being put out to our labor department to review, then that would be something that we absolutely could look at. But again, I think there's always nuance to law. There's always caveats to law. Many of the different groups that you spoke of, I don't know if they had the same rights to negotiate permissive subjects of bargaining Or do they have the right to negotiate pay like we do, what is a mandatory subject to bargaining that wasn't impacted by that? Because those circumstances will dictate where we go and how we do. Ultimately, it's about how do you ensure you protect yourself if some case law or something doesn't hold up, or if everybody gets the all clear, can we put ourselves in a position to be able to negotiate in 2026? Either way, that's what it's about, is finding a way to ensure we are insulated and protected with the ability to negotiate, something the last executive board didn't proffer and put forward. And now here we find ourselves where a president could have negotiated in 2022, president could have chosen to negotiate in 2023, and yet here we are in 24 trying to figure out what our path forward is from here. So by all means, Hanan, I know you're a smart guy. You do your diligent research, because I watched you in the NAC office when we were there at 890 doing research for cases. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it forward. Let's have our lawyers exploring it, because as of now, I haven't seen that a bit.
Yeah, and I would add to that that I honestly, one, I believe that to be false, that the Supreme Court determined that the executive orders were not
It wasn't the Supreme Court. It was Ketanji Brown
yes,
before she was on the Supreme Court.
Right. So then that was later
yeah.
overturned, Hanan. That was overturned, and the executive orders were deemed enforceable, and in fact got enforced. AFG had the benefit of President Biden winning president, and on his third day, taking those executive orders and nullifying them with executive orders that canceled those executive orders. So we don't get to
the only part that was overturned is that they had to do
Hanan,
administrative processes.
Please, Hanan, please wait. You don't get to cherry pick the law as you so choose. You have to operate with the law that exists. We don't get to live in a fantastical world where we say this occurred when it didn't actually occur. What actually occurred was the law was upheld. They were deemed to be lawful, and they did actually go into existence. AFG, the VA was actually imposed upon with those executive orders and had to deal with them in place. Oh, by the way, the executive orders were overturned by Joe Biden, eradicated with executive orders that replaced them. Donald Trump has said he will re-implement those executive orders. So it is a very real discussion. To say that there's fear is false. There's no fear on behalf of anyone. It's trepidation based on the reality that these may exist. We have to be mindful of that. We have to be alert our membership to what could actually happen. We don't get to cherry pick. That's unfair to our membership. And oh, by the way, if that were the case, then the president of the union should never even consider an extension if he doesn't have to worry about executive orders. He brought that to the board, not the other way around. So these are clever things that are unfair to our membership to equivocate about something that is unequivocal. It's not right. It's not right to play games with people's lives. This is a serious matter. Opening our CBA with executive orders in place, if those executive orders were to exist, would strip us of permissive subjects of bargaining, meaning we don't get to negotiate our schedules, we don't get to negotiate leave, we don't get protections from ATSEP, we don't have a position description, we don't have Article 33 and rotations, we can't leave facilities, so many things that would be harmful to us. And if that is the will of the union to do so, then that's fine, but they need to know the truth. They need to know the truth. And it's our job to tell them the truth. Actually, any person in a leadership position, to tell them the unvarnished truth.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that it's cherry picking to say that it was defeated in court. And when it was appealed to the DC District Court of Appeals, there was one component that was not upheld on appeal.
Hanan, did the executive orders
asking,
go into effect? Did the executive orders go into effect as written?
Until they were defeated in court. Yeah.
They weren't defeated in court. They were.
But what you got to understand is it wasn't the entire executive order that was defeated. There was 9 components of it that are very important. So I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge. I don't know this stuff. But when I talk to members of the NEB and I say, hey, well, what about this?
Yeah.
And then I hear like Clint Lancaster or Nick just said, never heard of it before. Okay, well, why don't we why don't we break this down? Let's explain it, because people like me, just idiot line controllers, see this stuff and say, well, wait a second, this is way more complex than some dipshit controller like me can understand. So why don't we have the people that our dues are going to pay, right? Like our dues go to pay all of this stuff to include these attorneys and these consultants and all this stuff. Why don't they tell us, break it all down for us? Yes, these 9 things were defeated. Then it was appealed by the Trump administration. This is what they won. This is what stayed in effect. This is what was found to be unconstitutional, so on and so forth. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Hanan,
So that we have a better understanding
brother,
when we say, hey, we want our NEB to do this stuff. This is the information we have.
brother, a couple things. One, you're not an idiot line controller. You're a bright person. I respect you totally. Those things are being done in regions that want to be honest with the membership. The regions who want there to be questions, or there to be this elusive illusion that we can somehow defeat something, or this thing didn't exist, they're doing exactly that. They're leaving questions in the heads of the membership. It's unequivocal. It occurred. It actually was implemented. The executive orders were implemented as written. Some slight alterations, but permissive subject of bargaining were absolutely taken off the table. That's why AFG was getting crushed. So I don't want to hold this entire meeting up with that. I want to thank you for your question first and foremost, very clearly and honestly. You're a good guy. We can always have these discussions. Your regional leadership should be being honest with you about executive orders, 100%.
The other thing that I'll add, Hanan, Hanan, before you go, I'll just add with you this, right? Put this in your train of thought, brother. A few meetings back, I don't want to quote the exact date because I don't have it. Joel Ortiz brought we should be out briefing these executive orders to everyone. To which the president of our union, Rich Sanders, said, you also should do that. Joel, can you make sure you share that with everybody so we can get back out there in front of everyone and briefing executive orders? I don't disagree at all that we should be doing our due diligence in any way, shape, or form. But you have to question, why would the president of our union, having the knowledge we're looking at, these types of things, or possibly doing that, state to the other RVPs, I think it's good to go out and start briefing the executive order so people know the impact to them. You got to question that, Hanan.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't really care one way or another about what Rich does. I look at problems and I want to hear solutions. I don't hear a lot of solutions through this campaign process. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I bring this stuff up. And I could honestly give 2 rat's asses what Rich did or whatever. I want to see where we're going to go forward. What are we going to do? What are the solutions on the table? You know what I mean?
And like you said, that is education, that in the conversations that we're willing to sit down and have. And by all means, we should be working with the people that are out there and saying, what about this or what about that? But as Jamal said, it can't be lies in order to win a seat.
Right. All right. Thank you guys for your time.
No, thank you, brother.
All right. If anybody else has any other questions or they want to follow up with anything that's been said so far, you can raise your hand, raise the hand feature at the bottom, or you can type your question into the chat.
We had a good long talk there. No other questions? Maybe everybody was just excited about that part of the conversation, which I'm glad that was brought up. So Jamal, thank you for capturing that, because I might have missed it that we had said that at the end.
Yeah, look, it's important to have these discussions, and members have every right to be frustrated by where we are. That's why we're running. The lack of transparency, the lack of a cohesive message from NACA. If NACA, the president of the union represents NACA. If NACA believes wholeheartedly that the executive orders are not a threat, the president of the union should send out from the desk of that the executive orders are not a threat to this union. Period. Let's all get behind it, right? Let's all work on the same sheet of music. This is unfair to our members. It's unfair for Hanan to have to try to do a mental gymnastics to figure out whether or not the executive orders actually would exist. He should be told. We have attorneys, we have a chief of staff, we have a president, an executive vice president, we have a national executive board, we have other unions that have gone through these. There should be no question. This should be crystal clear to our membership. I'm going to keep saying it. It's unfair to you all. This would not happen if Nick and I, if it's unpopular, but it's true, you got to tell people the truth. Period. It's always been that way.
All right.
Well said. And I do got a comment while we're waiting for, if we're waiting for more questions about one of the, I got to say, one of the names that has made me laugh the most at seeing the participants is Yankees suck. That is, I want to know who logs onto their Zoom calls with Yankees suck. That's a bold move. I enjoyed that.
Maybe they do.
Yes. I just know the Texas Rangers, World Series winning Texas Rangers are out there. We had one. We had a great year. So, well, listen, I haven't seen a question about it yet, so I'm going to break into a different topic right now about employee movement. One of the things that for 2.5 years, and I would say going back to even my time as a Fort Worth Center fact rep and alternate regional vice president, that has to be looked at, change, and different schools of thought brought forward is in that regard. We have a system right now that flows around the 8s and 9s. I know the NCEP team has been working hard at it to try to find ways to do it, but it's going to take bold steps and maneuvers in engaging the agency to put NCEP in now, taking a system that serves a well-staffed system and saying we'll keep using it when we're down 1,000 controllers and not, take a holistic look and change to it is absolutely a step backwards for us as a union. We have members right now that it should not be a 3-month lottery for them when they're wanting to move from a level 5 tower, somewhere that they got placed, to a level 6 tower that somebody's going to be placed at tomorrow from the academy. We need to start getting into a world where we can do targeted moves for our level 9s and below, meaning if Nicole wants to move from a facility in California, it's a level 5 and wants to come to a place in Texas. No, Nicole, I'm not wishing Texas upon you. I know that's it's not where you want to go. But if she wanted to move to a level 6 or even to a Lubbock tower here in Texas that we're sitting at right now, but somebody tomorrow out of the academy placed in Lubbock, we should be working with the agency to have a person placed where Nicole is in California. So after they achieve, and we'll work on what that place is in certification. Maybe it's local control before they get CIC. It's an up down. Maybe it's after their first radar or getting all their radars. Once that occurs, and then Nicole gets a 6-month release date or whatever the parties agree on, she should be able to go to Lubbock, Texas, and then increasing our vacancies in our level 8 through 9 facilities, where it's not this world of, because there are fewer spots in those. But we're going to have to say there's a level of retention that we need for that facility. And then we also need throughput for those facilities. And this is what happens when we get stuck in a world of just using percentages to control everything. It hurts us everything from deviations to actual placement. And we have a distribution out of the academy that goes by percentage only. We have to evolve from that into a distribution to looking at our facilities that train longer, like our up downs, where they're turning out one body every 2 years, and a tower is turning out somebody every 4 to 6 months. Lubbock, Texas is a great example. Again, just because I'm sitting here, they're an up down, but they're turning people out at 1 year. Okay, so if one facility is turning them out at 6 months, one's turning a year, and the other one's turning them out at 2 years, we should distribute the bodies into those so they all turn over 4 bodies at the same time. It's not just let's load up the facilities that train the fastest and then continue to staff the rest of the system. We're going to need to have a true look at this, and then let's be competitive for our facilities that are the 10s, the 11s, and 12s that are highly desired. Also, the placement will help with those that are undesired. The last thing that I want to mention is we have to bring back a level of not being a lottery, but putting in plans and processes to say you can plan on this for a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. And something like that would be a world of bringing back swaps in like type facilities. That can be our entrance back into the door while we work on building the health of the system over the next 7 to 8 years, and saying, okay, if you're going en route to en route, The higher staff facility can release to the lower staff facility, and then once they achieve a level of certification, that lower facility can release and then replace the body back to the higher staff facility. Same thing in all the facilities that aren't en route. We have to start doing what makes sense for our members, clearing out the backlog of requests that are out there, because it's a system where people are telling you that they're bidding to Chicago O'Hare, but they really wanted to go to Midway. But Midway will never be high enough, isn't serving our membership well either. So that's something that wanted to make sure we open, explore, see if anyone else has ideas. We're definitely open to them, but we shouldn't walk away from INSEP, but we absolutely need to change it.
All right, and I do want to say, looks like Jim just posted something in the chat for Hassan and everybody else with going back to that discussion about the Court of Appeals overturning her decision there. So I know we had another few people join here. So or at least one other person joined. If you guys do have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can put them in the chat. And Hanan, if you wanted to say anything there, we could definitely unmute you again. So if you wanted to continue talking about that. Looks like Aaron Russell said, let's be honest, the Supreme Court would likely be a final rubber stamp for any anti-labor executive orders.
Listen, and don't want to belabor it too much, but we want to be very clear. We want to negotiate a CBA. We want to improve compensation and benefits for NACA employees, no matter what bargaining unit they're in, period, point blank. We just want people to be honest. We just want to be honest with the membership and know all of the things that could occur in those instances. And there are other means by which we can improve our pay without going to a full-term negotiations. We've done it in the history of this union on several occasions. When we extended the Red Book, we improved pay through an MOU. When we transitioned out of the AT pay scale, the government pay scale onto the AT pay scale, which is separate and distinct for us, we had an MOU that had created an incentive pay that was later rolled in by an extension of the an extension of the Green Book into contract. We can do these things. We can do these things without opening our CBA and taking a risk. And if there is no risk, we'll open a CBA and we'll do them that way. But we can't be bound or gripped with fear. We have to be bold, we have to be smart, and we have to be willing to be transformational for the people that we represent. That's what union representatives have to do. But I, again, would love to see from the desk of, because that's how we communicate now, I would love to see from the desk of that there is no concern related to the executive orders. Because if there is no concern, and that's our presidential position, we should all know that. There shouldn't be half the regions thinking one way and half the regions thinking another way. That's called poor leadership.
And I'll double down on that since I thought there was a question coming. I'll double down on the fact of Jamal and I style. Jamal and I style is get out there, have the discussions, have the education, and when somebody brings something forward, we should be able to, as a union, communicate and look at it and know we're not trying to find ways to one up each other or play gotchas. Because for the 2.5 years I've been on this national executive board, that's what this is about. How do I show up somebody else so Hanan doesn't get the credit that he deserves? If Hanan came up with a good idea, I'll retailer it and brand it myself. So now this is Nick Daniels. I did this. I did that. Doesn't do anything in this union besides help spell the word. That's it. I only help spell the word union. We are the ones that work as a team to find out what our best path forward is. And then we stand on the side of learn either, being right, being wrong. We hit it out of the park. It was a grand slam. We swung and we missed, but we know why we did it, and we did it together. That's something that's missing. That is why we have so many members upset, why we have so many members confused. That's why we have members having to run to anonymous forums to get information. We must change the direction we're going, and that is why Jamal and I sit in front of you today. We need to be the source of information, not Nick and Jamal. this union needs to be the source of information from everything from a new hire to a person that's one day from retirement to our retirees as well that are in RNAV. They should be able to look at this union and say, we know where our trusted source of information is, and it's not about fighting and battling each other. We all have a collective goal in mind. We know the purpose of where we're going and why. And if we have a different idea about it, let's take it in as a group, work the issue together, and then find the direction and path that we move forward to from.
Yeah, the worst thing we can do is try to silo information. That's cheating our membership. Siloing information is something that dictators do to be powerful. We should share information. Everything that you know as a fact rep, if you're in that capacity, your membership should know. Everything you know as a regional vice president, the region should know. Everything that we know as a national president or national executive vice president, the nation should know. We should be knowing these things and sharing the information so we can attack it from all angles. We have brilliant people like Hanan that can help us to, if we're all working on this from the same sheet of music. But when we're doing this thing where we split the information and we're not truthful and upfront with each other because we want to run through the door and be hailed as heroes, we're not working or steering the boat in the same direction and making sure that our union is powerful. We're trying to make ourselves powerful. And frankly, that's a poor position for anybody in a leadership position to take. So wanting to switch subjects just a little bit, talk about the CRWG numbers and that amazing win for our union that hopefully will be cemented here soon. There was a call to action that came out to email your congressperson to say, hey, we want to see that be acted or moved into law or moved to the president's desk so he could sign it into law. Please take part in that action. We want, as a union, to get those CRWG numbers so that we can move and get our people off of 6-day work weeks and restore our families' lives again. We're killing ourselves for this profession. We're killing ourselves both figuratively and literally to deliver to the United States public. We're doing it every day with very little support from our employer. And finally, we made Congress aware of it. And we need to take that extra step to get it over the top so that it is enacted into law. And then once we get those people, we need to find a way to train them. We need coherent messaging, step by step. We need to have a plan, and we need to deliver CPCs so that you all can stop working 6-day work weeks, so that you all can stop working 10-hour days, so that we can get back to a normal status in our lives. This union, in its heyday, provided that to its memberships and to its members, and we want to do that again.
Nicole, we have any other questions yet?
No, that's what I was just checking. I'm not seeing any. I'm not seeing any direct messages or people with their hands raised. So I don't know if you guys want to wrap it up, or do you want to talk about anything else prior to that? It's really up to
I'd love to take the moment to talk about mental health, as that's something that comes up on some calls. There are our members are extremely passionate about this topic, and we should be too. So just want to, I'll share briefly, I guess, why I bring it up, right? It's something that's impacted my life for many years. I've been very open with others about it on these town halls. My mom died of suicide when I was 10 years old. I grew up having to, always question, man, like why would my mom have left me? There was always a level in the background that I struggled with of the impacts when somebody is lost through suicide. A permanent solution to a temporary problem, something I've advocated for quite some time. However, advocation and awareness, as I was reminded by our brother Mike Napolitano not too long ago, only goes so far. It's time for action and prevention. And that is something that I think those among the laborers that are out there, we can't, we have to think about our unionist membership, but also the impacts that we can have on everyone else. There are people that struggle every single day in silence or even out in the open that are fighting for their careers. We're bound by regional flight surgeons that are somehow have the power of wiping away a career, or somehow giving grace. And we have to start being more engaged and aggressive with, not aggressive with the regional police themselves, but aggressive in pursuing being a part of the answer and how we're going to actually provide guidance and help to controllers without the idea that their career is gone from saying the words, I'm having issues or I'm worried about my mental health. We need to start by engaging in contract negotiations or an MOU, as Jamal said, whatever the appropriate form is, because we cannot be scared of engaging just waiting, because our current leadership wants to just wait until a contract opens. They think that's the in Rich, and I've seen it and heard it in different videos with Mick as well, about the only time we can go and talk about things is when we open contracts. Nope, we could be engaging them right now. And one of the things we could be engaging about is let's start putting an optional hour, a pay period if scheduled in advance. You want to go seek services for counseling through EAP, something that's not going to impact the medical, that's a step in the right direction. We don't get to take, we'll take as big a bowl of steps as we absolutely can, but we have to kick in that door and say, this is a topic that we're concerned about. What are other groups and industries doing out there? What are other laborers doing to move this forward? Because if we just forever sit in silence, we're really hoping that we just tough everyone out and that, no one finds us, because I know everyone has gone to work at some point and someday and said, man, like life is tough right now. Things are difficult. And they would absolutely be a part of and embark and want their union to engage in how, when we have those moments, or maybe we have a long-term health or mental issue, to not just say, sorry, you're out and good luck with the rest of your life. So Jamal, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, my brother.
And not specifically add to that, I think you said it well. I think we're toward the closeout portion of it. I do want to say that the frustration is palpable from our membership, and it's appropriate. I've been in this union, again, since 2005. I've been in the agency since 2007, and I've seen it at its heights, and I feel it's at its low right now. I think that we still do great things for our membership, but the low is in leadership. Paul and Trish, I thought that their superpower was that they went out and they were amongst the members, and we had direction and one coherent message. We've lost that. People who've only been in this agency since 2019 or so, when COVID struck us, don't even know what this union looks like when it operates the way it's supposed to operate. When it operates with integrity, when it operates as what it's supposed to be, a vehicle for members to be served. We haven't seen that because they couldn't do that during COVID. And then we inherited a president and an executive vice president. I love Andrew Lebovich, but an executive vice president who in my mind has been marginalized. Our leadership has been weak. Our leadership has been weak, and our leadership has been divisive. And we have to get back on track, or we will lose our members. We can't have anonymous forums being the way that we reach out to our members, or how our members find out things about this union. As Nick said, the first stop should be NACA. The first stop for anyone thinking about this career should be NACA. I had a person send me an email today and say, a new member or a prospective member of this union, someone that wants to get into air traffic control, went on some site called Discord or something like that and said, hey, I want to be an air traffic controller in the Fort Worth area, and was attacked, belittled, and made to feel stupid, to the point where they don't want to do the job anymore. And she said, can you help them out, Jamal? Of course I'll try to help them out. We should be where people get information, because those anonymous boards, we don't know who's on it, but they're certainly trying to tear our union down. Why would they want to do that? Because this union has served each and one of us excellently in the past and can in the future. So I ask that you all stay the course, that we all collectively make a change. You have an option in this election. You'll have an option. You either say you want status quo or you want to change. We ask that you look for a change. I guarantee you that we'll work our tails off to ensure that this union is restored to back where it's supposed to be, what you expect.
Got a couple things that I'd like to hit. One is, if you're feeling afraid of asking a question, if you're feeling afraid of supporting a candidate publicly, because that you may not get a position later on. If you're feeling afraid that you will be chastised in your region. I tell you that that is something we must eradicate from this union. Rich, Mick have perpetuated. I've heard the everything from the chants to the disparaging comments to, at one point, we didn't even have names. We were my opponents. We're a union. I don't care who you support. I don't care what your ideas are. As long as they're ideas that are to better this union. You could have on I love Rich button, I love Mick button, I love any candidate, other than Nick and Jamal button. Good, have an opinion, be passionate about it, because I know Jamal and I are passionate about it. What we're not going to do is sit here and be quiet when we don't think things are going the direction that they should, and neither should you. We don't have to tear each other apart for it. We don't have to tear each other down. We don't have to. We have to be able to be willing to tell the truth and the uncomfortable truth at times when you're going to an NEB meeting, and the entire conversation over 6.5 hours is to set up a Reddit blog that's being led by Rich and Mick's campaign team. Those things are real. We don't like to talk about them. We don't want to believe in that, but it is part of what is occurring and what's happening. We as a leadership, Jamal and I, will run towards issues when elected. We won't wait until Jacksonville's on fire and having to scream through a roof, but yet a level 5 facility is out here underwater as well, and no one's engaged them. We want to engage the RVPs and set expectations for them. Let's go out and answer questions. Not everybody is moving in the same direction, so every region, there may be different questions that are asked. There may be things that are not bringing forward. And I can tell you, in 2.5 years of sitting down on that national executive board, we talk about some topics like DIS, usually putting people in there, but questions ever come or directions ever been. Hey, let's take a look at our facilities that are struggling the most in training. Let's identify the 5 facilities that have the times that are most out of whack and go out, find out what the impediments are. Let's bring back, what do they believe the solutions are and who's keeping them from it? Is it the district? Is it the service area? Is it a lack of knowledge? Do we need to get education in there? Running towards an issue is actually how we're going to improve this issue, not just waiting until who screams the loudest. So that is something that must change. And then we must ensure that our membership has voices. If you've been a part of it, or you've seen it, or you've heard, one of the things that Jamal and I want to immediately start, and working with the National Executive Board, is a ability for level 4 through 9 facilities to start a council and have a group just like the Center FACRUPs, the Core 30, our large TRACONs, because we believe that their voice isn't being heard, and their representation and their ability to work together to say what are our issues that are collective, and we have these ideas of how to do it, and they need a forum to speak to their leadership about. It shouldn't just be we put out the same fire every day in 256 separate facilities that are, our towers that are out there. We could be working together to treat this union as one. In the Southwest region, we say not 38 facilities, but one region. Now we need to take that and expand it further. Jamal and I believe not 313 facilities, not just FAA facilities, FCT, DOD, staff support, TMC, Region X, and the list goes on of we need to speak as one. So we need to know each other's issues, what we can learn from them, and how we can move forward. We appreciate every single one of you that was willing to be on here. I wanted to make sure I hit a couple different topics before we go. Some of these last 3 hours, some of them last shorter. If you have questions, you have concerns, reach out. We're a part of this. Ballots go out on June 3rd, but it's your voice ultimately that'll carry this through. You're going to be the one that ultimately chooses the direction of this union. Do not sit on your hands. Cast a ballot. Be proud of where you cast a ballot. And if you're not sure who to vote for, remember, no one's holding a gun to your head when you do it. No one's going to strong arm enforce you. It's a secret ballot, and you get to choose where we go from here. So, Jamal, I didn't know if that was your closeout. Is there anything else, or otherwise we can turn it over to Nicole?
Oh, you hit a lot, brother. A couple other people have joined. Just wanted to say that this was informative. It was a good time had by all. Questions, comments. We don't hide from anything. We believe this is the way you should communicate. We'll communicate with the membership if elected in very similar forms. Hopefully sometimes with just NACA, other times with our counterparts. We have to use whatever vehicles and means there are to communicate with members. We're seeing that misinformation is flying faster than ever, not just with NACA, but in general. So we have to provide actual information all the time so our membership is educated so that they feel comfortable knowing that their union leadership is working on their behalf at all times, that we don't have part-time jobs, that this is everything that we do, and that we're there for them. So thank you to each and every one of you. Hopefully talk to other people. Again, tell them how it went. We do have a website where we don't hide our visions for this union. They're very easily accessed, and we stand by them. They can adapt as time goes on, because everyone should be adaptable as more information comes forward. Just see Mike DeFalco joined. Mike, you got anything for us before we go, brother? No, Boston Tower, important facility in the NAS. If you got anything for us, we'd love to hear from you. If not, turn it back over to Nicole and bid you all a good day.
I did ask him to unmute just in case. So Mike, if you want to unmute, you can go ahead while we're wrapping up. Like Jamal said, Christy's been posting all of our socials and our website in the chat. So you can go there. If you do want to volunteer to help out with the campaign, there's a form on there to do that. Also, like Jamal said, all of the vision statements, everything is there as well on our website. Ballots go out June 3rd. They need to be returned by July 30th. So they are mail-in ballots. Post office has been a little behind recently, if you guys have been paying attention to that. So we need everybody to return their ballots as soon as possible. As soon as you get it, please talk to people at your work, see if they got their ballots, make sure that they return them as well. So I'm not seeing anything in the chat, and I'm not seeing
Hey,
anything.
Nicole, one thing, tell them to update their addresses also.
Yes, everybody needs to check their address. My NACA, make sure that your address is correct. Make sure your friends' addresses are correct. And if you want to help out our campaign doing that, we are doing a grassroots effort to make sure people in the facilities are going to be checking to make sure that the addresses are correct, but don't rely on that. Please check your. So that's all I had with that. So I'm not seeing anything else. I want to thank everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Bye.
Thank y'all for the time. Really appreciate it.